Welcome to the Transfer Exchange Show. We are live, and today we have La Liga expert Semra Hunter in the building. How are you doing, Semra?
I'm good, thank you very much. How are you?
I'm good. Exciting ending to the Liga season, I see.
It absolutely is. It honestly couldn't get much better than this, to be honest with you.
It couldn't. I've not seen a title chase like this ever. I think the last time I saw anyone that wasn't the standard two was, I think, Valencia were near it, Deportivo before that, and other than that, it's just Real Madrid and Barcelona. How exciting is it for you to see something different?
A little bit of love to Atletico Madrid, eh?
Yeah, sorry. How can I forget? Simeone's going to be knocking on my door.
He's coming after you, man.
He is, I know. Angry man. I apologise. I'm throwing it out there. I apologise. All right.
I'm only joking. I'm just teasing you.
No. So, how exciting is this end of the season?
It's honestly the most exciting end to a season, I think, ever. At least that I can remember. I looked back into this because I was really curious when the last time there was such a close title race between more than just two or three teams. Mm-hmm. And the last time there was a title race where it was 3 points between four contenders, this was a couple of weeks ago, by the way, you had to go back 48 years to the 1972-73 season. And it was the same setup. There was four teams, 3 points between them. It went all the way down to the wire. Atletico Madrid won that year, by the way.
Can you see him doing it this year?
You know what? It's funny because for the longest time, I thought this is definitely their year, right? All the way up through January. They were blowing away competition. They were on this ridiculous run. They were superseding their own expectations. They hit 50 points after 19 games with one still in hand. They already blasted through the record that they had of points for the club in history of La Liga and stuff like that. So you thought, yeah, they've got this. It's done and dusted. They'll wrap it up. Surely they'll drop points here and there in the second half because there's Champions League football and so on. But then I didn't expect them to drop as many points as they did.
Yeah,
I think everybody else didn't expect that to be honest, either, because they were 12 points clear at one point. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, the last few weeks, you probably would have thought Barcelona became the new favourites, since they had this spectacular run since the beginning of December, where until Granada, they only lost one game, and that was to Real Madrid. So it was like 20 new matches, basically all wins and draws. Mm-hmm. And they were able to close the gap while Atleti were dropping. Real Madrid were also dropping points. So all of a sudden, they were the best team in terms of the football performances as well, too, not just the results. So you thought, right, okay, they've got a real shot to this Barcelona, and what's supposed to be a transitional year for them. Given everything, everything that happened in the summer, it was pretty remarkable that they jumped from 8th to all of a sudden being title contenders when it was completely thought impossible. Mm-hmm. And then the last couple of weeks, I would say it's been kind of going back and forth, because just when you think another team is going to take it off of Atletico Madrid, like the football goals have just been shining or looking so favorably on them. Right? It's like Barcelona have this golden opportunity to beat Granada, the game in hand that they had, leapfrog Atletico Madrid, and they don't. Then Atletico Madrid almost dropped points to Elche, but they were saved by the post from a penalty. They ended up winning and taking the 3 points, which kept them in the driving seat. Then this weekend happened, the super match day that we had with the top four playing against one another. And those games both ended in a draw.
Yeah, I know. Like, great games.
Somehow they just keep staying on top. So, I've just got to give it to them. I mean, it just seems like it's written in the stars for them, this campaign. And to be honest with you, over the full 9 months, they probably deserve it. So.
And what a turnaround it is from Barcelona, because I remember at the start of the season, it was a complete write-off with Koeman. As you said, it was a transitional season. It didn't seem like he had all the players on side from what the press was saying, how it was coming across. What's been the turnaround in the season with Barcelona?
It's a really good question, and one that, quite honestly, on a regular basis, we try to pick apart and analyze ourselves, because it's been really fascinating to see the development of this team under Ronald Koeman. He came in a really rough period, to put it nicely, lightly. he had, basically think of it as like a sinking ship, and he had a bucket, and he was just trying to chuck out water as much as he possibly could, as quickly as he possibly could.
And the bucket had a hole in it as well, called Messi.
Exactly. But somehow he's managed to not only keep the boat afloat, but actually steer it straight on in the right direction.
Yeah.
I think part of it is that he had time to kind of settle in, adapt. He knew the club already, obviously, from his playing days. He was a legend, especially in that European Cup final that he helped them win all those years ago. So I think the board, the fans, the players, they respected him, and they gave him the room to experiment, to make mistakes, to course correct, where normally at clubs like Barcelona or Real Madrid, you would never get that kind of time or that patience. So I think that helped. Another thing is he's really good with young players. I think that's one of the strengths that he's always had throughout his career. And he really has embraced the academy at Barcelona this season, almost out of necessity, because of course Barcelona didn't have the financial wherewithal to really bring in big stars over the summer. So he's really used and adapted the young players incredibly well. And I think it's been a baptism of fire for them. And having so many minutes at 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, where normally at a club like Barcelona, you would never get that. It's really helped them develop like this. They've just taken off. And I think around December, apart from the tweaks to the system and everything else, because Barcelona, of course, historically, since the days of Guardiola, was playing with a regular 4-3-3 all the time, no matter what. But Koeman came in and actually kind of switched things up to make it more similar to his playing days with the Dream Team. So you would have 3 at the back, or 3-4-3, or 3-5-2, or something like that. And you would be more preoccupied with trying to score goals more than your opponent, and not worry so much about conceding. Obviously, you want to keep it as low as possible, but if you concede a couple, as long as you score 4 or 5, then it doesn't matter. So I think that period from the summer until December, with these young players coming and mixing with the veterans, along with getting used to this new system and style of play, it finally just clicked. And it just worked really well for them in La Liga. Unfortunately, didn't work so well. This is the one big criticism that he's had throughout the entire season, is that whenever he's gone up against big opponents, Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, Juventus, Champions League and so on, he's faltered in every single one of those games. They were never able to win. And on top of that, they were badly beaten. So yeah, I think it's been a tremendous work in progress. I think he's actually achieved a lot more than anybody expected him to in such a short amount of time. Yet, of course, there's still a long way to go. But I think, personally, it's pretty remarkable overall what he's done, because, like I said, most people wrote off the season before it even started for Barcelona and said there's no way they're going to end up with anything. And yet, technically, they're still in with a chance for a double. They won in the King's Cup. They won heavy-handedly, very comfortably in that game as well, too. So they already have one piece of silverware, and they could still get another one. That's not at all a bad return.
Transitional season.
Exactly, for such a tumultuous season, at least that's how it started, So it's very impressive as far as I'm concerned. But obviously, there's still room for improvement and things that need to be fixed and so on. And one of the big ones for the future is taking on and going toe-to-toe and beating bigger opponents.
Go on, Steve.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say, do you think his job is safe now, Semra? Do you think he's there for the next 2-3 years?
I think it all comes down to how the league ends. If he wins the league with Barcelona, then yes, I think he's got his job assured for at the very least one more season. If he doesn't, I think there's very much a possibility that Laporta will decide not to renew his contract. So I think it all hinges on that, to be quite honest with you, because Laporta, he's a shrewd guy. He's a very smart, savvy character, and he knows how to appease the public, let's say. So I think he's going to keep his cards pretty close to his chest and wait it out and see what happens, and then he'll make a decision come the summer.
Yeah.
Do you think it's too early for Xavi to come in to take that position? I know that's the one that they really want, but I can't see it going anywhere.
Everybody's been wanting for a long time now. It's a tough one, I'll be honest with you. I think it could potentially be a little bit premature, only because, with my respects to the Qatari Football League, I'm not sure that he has that kind of elite level experience as of yet that he could apply to bringing back to Barcelona. I think so many fans saw what happened with Pep Guardiola, and they just expect Xavi to be the same. And I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. I mean, we have to remember Pep Guardiola, he went to Mexico for a while to learn under Marcelo Bielsa. He was in the youth academy at Barcelona for quite some time. I think he was in Italy for a while, also in Qatar. I mean, he bounced around quite a lot of different places before he went back to Barcelona and then worked his way up to the first team. And so for me, I feel like Xavi might need a little bit more experience, perhaps. Maybe I'm totally wrong. He comes back and he just does a phenomenal job. But there's no question that he's able and perfectly capable of taking that kind of job. And I think at some stage he definitely will. I mean, he's a football mad person. He's football obsessed. He watches all kinds of football from all different leagues, from all around the world, different divisions. It doesn't matter. He's absolutely obsessed about it in the way similar to Pep Guardiola, which is one of the reasons why I think he has all the potential in the world to actually become very successful. Is it the right time for him to come back to Barcelona? I would say maybe give it another year or two, if I'm honest with you.
Do you think the likes of Messi and PK being there might be a bit too much for him to come in as a first start, or do you think that they may even help him?
That's a good question, because I don't think any president or even any manager wants to be the one to necessarily have to see those players retire or be moved on or transition them, fade them out of the. Because at some stage, let's be honest, like. It's a natural cycle for all footballers. No matter how good, how big, how fantastic you've been in your career, at some point, Father Time, it takes its effect on you, and you'll have to be phased out because maybe you can't run as fast, maybe technically you're not as good anymore, maybe you have too many injuries, whatever the reason. And I don't think any manager wants to be the one that slowly starts to phase out Lionel Messi.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? Even if it's his, best mate or close mate, Xavi Hernandez.
Get him to write a note just to let everyone know it's not the manager talking, it's the player. Distance yourself
Exactly. Like that was one of the things that actually I think Zidane handled so beautifully whenever it came to Cristiano Ronaldo, because that was a sticky issue for a lot of managers who came in. Didn't necessarily know how to deal with Cristiano Ronaldo when he was going through some injuries, and maybe it wasn't the best thing for him physically to keep playing constantly all the time. And Zidane came in, and I think because he was Zidane and there was that respect and that mutual understanding, he respected his choices to say, okay, if you tell me to rest this game, I'll rest. Or if you tell me to, play 60 minutes, I'll play 60 minutes. You know what I mean? So maybe that could work with Xavi, but it'd be a very difficult job, I think, to take on, to be the one to have to kind of help him wind down his career in the case of Lionel Messi. And PK, I mean, it's a little bit different because he's had such a bad year in terms of injuries. He's missed already so many games that I don't think it would be maybe as big of an issue. And he's also quite entrepreneurial, and he has all of his other businesses on the side. I think he's kind of already like, I'll just stop playing whenever I'm tired and I'm done playing. That's not the case with Messi. So, but who knows? I mean, maybe Xavi could find a way to help him ride off into the sunset in the best way possible.
Dream scenario.
But, fingers crossed. It's a long, long, long time from now. So.
Yeah. She said about Zidane. Did you think he'd stay at the end of the season? Do you think he'd carry on?
Oh, my instinct tells me no. I don't have any sort of inside information about this or anything. I think Zidane is probably still thinking about it. It's just based off of things, the way that he presents himself, things that he says, the way he words things in press conferences or to the media. It just kind of makes me think that perhaps this could be the end of his time there for this, stint. Maybe he'll come back in the future. Who knows? But like, for example, the other day, I think it was Lucas Vazquez was it Lucas Vazquez? I don't remember who it was exactly, but I think someone came out and said that Zidane had tried to rally the troops before the Chelsea game by saying, this could be the last time that we're all here together in this situation. So let's just go out there and try and get it done and try to get past Chelsea, and let's try to reach one more final together, because who knows, it could be the last time. So if he's saying stuff like that, it does kind of make me question, maybe he is really thinking about leaving, or maybe by mutual accord, maybe it's one-sided. I don't really know. But they're definitely in the Spanish media in Madrid. They've been pushing for a long time for Raúl to come through. He's been in the youth, coaching in the youth level, and he's been doing a really good job. And actually, he just got the team promoted from the 3rd division up to the 2nd division. And a lot of the players that he's been working with have even debuted with the first team this season, and they've been outstanding. So there is sort of this discussion in the shadows, in the background, that maybe this is time for Raúl to come up, and to take over. So I think there's a very real possibility that does happen in the summer.
Do you think he's ready? Do you think it's his time?
I mean, I think if Zidane wants to leave, okay, fine. But I mean, I would love for him to stay. I think against all the odds, everybody, was so critical of him when he took over.
Yeah.
No one thought he would be a good manager, and yet he definitely blew everybody's expectations out of the water.
Breaking records has been outstanding. Yeah.
He's been outstanding. I mean, it's true that he's, from a tactical point of view, hasn't really been very strong for most of his time as the first team manager. He has improved a lot this season, though, definitely. But he was able to win trophies almost more off of his charisma and the aura and the respect that he sort of commanded with those in the dressing room. And because he was who he was, and he was a player, and he was in that situation, he could connect with them in a way that other managers couldn't. So I think if that charm has worn off, or if he's tired, or if he just feels that he wants a break, or whatever the reason is, then sure, then maybe the next natural progression is to have Raúl come in and take over the first team. It's a big jump going from, coaching teenagers in the 3rd division to all of a sudden coaching some of the biggest talent in the world in one of the biggest teams, most successful teams in club history. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it seems really positive. A lot of people have said a lot of really good things about what Raúl's doing at that level, but I think it would be a massive test for him for sure. But why not? It could work, definitely.
Yeah.
Let me just quickly say hi, guys.
Hi.
How you doing, Nathan?
I'm Nathan. Kieron. Sorry about being a bit late. But I just wanted to say, like, over in Spain, that they love to bring in the legends of the past and bring them in. But here in England, look what happened with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He comes in and everyone's talking about he can't do the job, get someone else. But they don't understand. You need to start somewhere. And Pep's done great. I'd love to see Raúl be a manager. We've seen him for so many years, scoring so many goals for Real. We love to see him. I'd love to see him coming in and doing the job as well. But the question I've got regarding Barcelona is there any truth in the rumors about Aguero going there, or what's the issue with that?
I think they're just rumors right now, to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, it popped up every now and again over the last few months. The only reason why I say, I mean, again, maybe I'm totally wrong about this, but the reason why I think perhaps the rumors is that even though he could go there on a free transfer, it depends on what kind of salary he's going to command. And Barcelona are in big trouble financially. Big trouble. You know, I mean, I think their first order of business is trying to keep Lionel Messi. So if you do that, then you still have his massive wages to pay, whatever they determine, you know, whatever agreement they come to in terms of a figure. But so I'm not sure that is the right fit, unless he says, listen, I mean, because obviously Kun Agüero and Messi are very, very close friends. So maybe he says to the board, okay, one of the reasons I'll stay is if you bring him, you know, if you bring along one of my mates.
Yeah.
It could be the case. But from a football point of view, I mean, there's no denying that Kun Agüero is absolutely fantastic. And he's achieved some real things with Manchester City during his time there. But he's, 34, 35 years old?
Yeah, to the end, isn't he?
He's near the end of his career. And I think now the philosophy and the approach from clubs like Barcelona and Real Madrid is to start looking at their own academies.
Yeah.
Because of the financial situations at both clubs. They just don't have the money to go out and splash the cash and make these big record transfer fees. And like I said, apart from that, pay the wages of these players too. So for me, I don't see it happening. But again, maybe there's just something we just don't know about that will allow him to come in. But I think it would be a very difficult thing for them to pull off because, I mean, they're 1.2 billion euros in debt, Barcelona. So, I mean, I suspect they might be.
COVID now?
Sorry?
Is that more due to the COVID issue over the last year, or is there something else there?
It hasn't helped. I mean, it definitely hasn't helped, but that's not the main cause behind it. You know, I mean, it's true that obviously they lost a lot of money because the museum has been closed. There's been no fans allowed into the games. All of their stores have been closed, so they haven't been able to sell merchandise as much as they used to. Those kinds of things definitely have had a massive impact. But the board that was in charge beforehand also very poorly managed the money. They were just burning holes in their pockets. And so they were spending way much more than they were generating. And they just didn't handle it properly. So it was more down to gross mismanagement of the finances than anything else. But of course, they've used that as a vehicle to say, oh, the pandemic, you know, give us more money. We need to join the Super League and all this kind of stuff. And they're trying to divert focus away from the fact that they just didn't handle things the way they should have. But now that Laporta's there, it's entirely possible that will change, because when he took over the first time, I think it was 2003, Barcelona were also in a serious state of debt, not to the degree that they are now, but he was able to fix the problem, and he was able to clear their debts and kind of balance the books, let's say, and sort out the situation. So I think that's one of the reasons why people voted him back in now, because they figured he has that experience, he knows how to do it, he'll get Barcelona out of this situation. It will definitely take a lot of time because there is a lot of money. But I suspect their focus might be, you know, let's try to maybe cut wages, sell players, look at the academy, bring in, you know, youngsters, or invest in young players and young talent from abroad, like they did with Serginho Dest by bringing him in from Ajax. That sort of thing, I think will be more the approach that they'll be going for, at least in the next few years. But you never know. I mean, they may pull out all the stops and bring in a huge superstar. I just don't see how they could do it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Did I hear something of was there a sponsorship deal that Barcelona are getting, something like £250 million? Did I hear, or is that for something else? To
be honest, I don't know. It's possible. No. It's entirely possible. I mean, I suspect Laporta and the board will be looking to try and strike up, partnership deals, wherever they can. So, but I mean, another thing is that they're in the middle of paying for the Camp Nou remodelation, which they're going to be doing in the next couple of years too. Yeah. So that's another expenditure that they have, and they've actually asked I think it was what would you call it? I guess like the local government. I think they asked them for permission to go play at the old Olympic Stadium in Montjuic. If anybody's ever been to Barcelona, it's a pretty cool old stadium. It's quite tiny. But so they've asked permission to go play there for the next couple of years, whenever necessary. So I imagine he's doing everything in his power to try and find any sort of avenue and vehicle to help bring money into the club. And that might be an option for sure. For sure.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you think Real Madrid and Barcelona will reassess their management there? Because it has been massive mismanagement with regards to recruitment, higher wages, higher fees on players with no real return. Do you think they're going to reassess that? Because you still keep hearing them linked with big names, the Mbappes, the Haalands, yet they're, as you said, they're billions of pounds worth of debt.
Yeah, I think they almost don't have a choice, I mean, I think at the end of the day, they are huge global brands that have hundreds of millions of fans around the world. So I think they're always going to be linked with some of the biggest names, the hottest properties in the market, regardless. You know what I mean? And I think also, media, they need to sell papers. They need to sell stories. So sometimes they just make things up because it's what they just need to do. And that's why there's always so many transfer rumors, and it's always difficult to know what's real and what isn't, because sometimes they just like to sell hot air because they don't have any other option to do otherwise. But yeah, I mean, even Florentino Perez, the president of Real Madrid, has come out saying that they're going to be very hard hit financially for quite some time. And so it's going to be really difficult for them to recover from this whole situation. The pandemic, of course, hasn't helped. So I think they have no other option but to reassess and to figure out a better way to handle the income that they get going forwards. And that's why I think they will be leaning so heavily on homegrown talent, which again goes back to why I think there's so many people who would like to see Raul take over, because that's what he's doing. You know what I mean? He's developing young players, those same young players that he would be taking with him up to the first team. So they would be growing together. And it's kind of like, the golden era of Barcelona, that team, that generation that came through, Messi, Piqué, Busquets, Iniesta, Xavi, etc. I mean, they played together forever since they were kids. And then they had this brilliant genius of a manager in Pep Guardiola who made it all work. So I think they're very much hoping they can repeat that kind of success. I think at both clubs, to be quite honest with you.
Semra, I just, so in Germany, some of these coaches that we've talked about have a really high standing. I mean, Xabi Alonso was linked with Gladbach and it supposedly turned them down, and Raúl is now being linked with Eintracht Frankfurt. Do you think that has more to do with their individual performance as coaches and perhaps their standing in Germany, or do you see any of that having to do with also how they are educated, like in the Spanish system, like with the gaining their UEFA license in Spain? Is the course there, what makes that kind of qualification and that life different from coaches in Germany or in England?
Well, in Xabi Alonso's case, I suppose part of it has to do with who he is. Again, I mean, he was part of this golden generation of Spanish footballers who won the Euros twice, who won the World Cup. He was a major player at Real Madrid during a very successful period as well too, winning Champions Leagues, less so in the league. So I think it's maybe perhaps they're attracted to the status of the individual. But also I think Spanish football has everything they've built over the last 10, 15 years, I think has become massively respected worldwide. And in Spain, they do have some of the best youth academies in the world. And that's the same for, players as it is with developing managers and developing coaches. So perhaps they're attracted to the mixture of having the status of somebody like Xabi Alonso and what he is learning and what he is doing with these youth academies. The academy at La Real is one of the best around in Zubieta. And he decided to stay because they produced an unbelievable amount of talent, especially players in his position. So I think that probably helps too. But I think he would like to become the first team coach one day. And so I think that was his personal decision to stay. But I mean, you never know. Maybe he'll decide to go to Germany or somewhere else because of the links that he has from his playing days at some other time. But
go ahead.
No, please. I'm doing all the talking, so please.
I was going to ask, because you mentioned it so much with these homegrown players coming up and the sporting, but also the financial necessity of that, especially at the top clubs. Who would you say are some under 21 players across La Liga right now that we should really be keeping an eye on, whether they're Spanish or not, but just any young talents in the league?
Oh, there's a lot. Actually, I read an article today that was really quite I don't know how to explain it. It put a smile on my face. Let's put it that way. I thought it was really nice because out of the top 5 big leagues in Europe, Spain this year, La Liga, across all of the clubs, have used more youth players than any other league around. So
wow.
Yeah, so they're really, again, I think part of it is out of necessity because of the pandemic, but the flip side is they are still making use of all of these players coming through their various academies. So there are tons of young, super exciting talents coming up, whether they've been coached here in Spain from a young age or coming abroad, like you said. Frankie de Jong, for example, who joined from Ajax a couple of seasons ago. The first season was a bit not so great for him. He had a really difficult time fitting into the system the way everybody thought he would straight away because of the link between the two clubs. But this season, under Ronald Koeman, he is just, unbelievable. He's been phenomenal.
What's changed in his game?
Sorry?
What's changed in his game?
What's changed in his game? I think confidence in himself, for one thing. He's now getting much more involved in attack. He likes to get up into the final third. He likes to find himself in the box. He even tries to score every now and again and does score every now and again. But I think he also has a better understanding with those attacking players and how to find them, how to read them, when to lay off a pass or what space to lay it off to so they can run into it. That kind of stuff. I think he's feeling so much better about his own position and what is asked of him. Because I think under Quique Setien, it wasn't really clear as to what his role was meant to be. And so now with Koeman, it's pretty clear. You play here, you do this, and you do that. And so I think in that sense, he's improved a lot. He takes a lot of risks, likes to play the ball forward a lot, doesn't necessarily have to play it back. He's got Busquets behind him to help out with that sort of stuff too, and with defensive duties. And the other thing is, whenever they've had a really difficult time with injuries at the back, he's actually, instead of using some of the other natural central defenders, Koeman has put Frankie de Jong as a central defender because he can bring the ball out so well out of the back, and he's exceptionally good with his feet, and his passing game is really top class. So he's been a bit of a utility player for them this season, but he's been great for them overall, and consistent. Pedri is another one, an absolute find, who came from the Canary Islands, but looks like he came through La Masia. Looks like he spent his entire life growing up with Barcelona. And he has this already telepathic understanding with Lionel Messi, and they seem to really understand each other. And that's been a really nice partnership to see bearing quite a lot of fruit. Ansu Fati, before he got injured, I mean, I'm signed with Barcelona, I can go move on to other clubs too. There's plenty. Ansu Fati, before he got injured, was probably the biggest excitement factor, you could say, for Barcelona at the start of the campaign when things were really rough for them. He just sparkled and he was breaking so many records and he was scoring so many goals. And he clearly had the support and the backing of Lionel Messi, which is, again, a big thing, especially when you're, 17, 18 years old.
Is he as good as what people are saying, or is it just hype?
No, the hype is real. It's definitely real. The main concern now is he's just had his 4th operation on his knee. And that's not good. They can't seem to figure out, and I think now they were trying to avoid taking, I think, parts of the meniscus out, but now in the end, I think they've had to do it. It's just been, they haven't really been able to figure out what the actual problem is. It keeps just sort of, every time he's about to come back, something happens, and then he has to have a surgery, and then it just keeps repeating itself. So he's missed this entire season in the end. So I think now the course of action is take time, let him fully recover over the summer. But it's a concern. You mean, coming back from such a major injury, is he going to be able to play at the level he was at? Will he get better? I mean, we would like to think that yes, because he's so young. But at the time, I could definitely tell you the hype was very real. Absolutely.
Yeah. Just while we're on the subjects of youth players, someone I think Nathan would be very interested to know how his progress is going. Facundo Palestra is at Elvis on loan from United.
Palestri.
As he,
so I was like, say that again.
Who's that? Who's he talking about? I don't know who that is. How's he coming along? Does he need another season at Elvis, or is he ready to come back to United? Just how's his progress coming?
He hasn't really played very much, to be honest with you. So I suppose he probably needs a little bit more time.
I would think so. I think so. He needs a few years. I think he needs a few years.
Yeah.
So it's just been a bit part player from what I've seen as well. So we'll see.
Yeah. Cool.
What other youngsters are standing out?
Brian Hill, who is he's a Sevilla player on loan at Eibar. And he's definitely been like the revelation player, one of them of the entire season. I think he's 20 years old. Very exciting, a winger, very pacey. He's been one of the best players for Eibar, absolutely, this season. It's just a shame that they're in the position that they're in because they just don't really have enough firepower and attack to score goals. And that's just condemned them to most likely being relegated into the 2nd division. But I mean, he won't go with them for sure. I mean, he'll either be taken back to Sevilla or loaned back out somewhere else. But there's a lot of interest in him from bigger clubs as well too. I think, he even got called up to the national team as well too. And it was really nice because he just broke down in tears. He was so excited and emotional when he got the first call up. And it was just lovely to see. So he's definitely one to keep an eye on. Let's see, La Real. I mean, Real Sociedad is loaded with young talent. Alexander Isak, who is from Sweden. He's had a brilliant season under Imanol Alguacil, the manager. He's done a great job with developing these young players. I think on average, they have the youngest squad in the division. I think it's about 22 or 23 years old, something like that. But he's scored 14 goals so far in La Liga.
Oh, wow.
He had a really good run of scoring like 6 games in a row. I think he broke a record at the time, which was only a few months ago. I mean, it helps that they have a veteran by the name of David Silva. Too,
just a bit.
Who has been just unreal. I was like, I can't believe you guys are letting him go. I mean, I'm so happy for him. You've got
to change at some point. It can't be a hard. You've got to change at some point.
Well, it's Phil Foden. Their loss, our gain. I can tell you that much.
But Phil Foden is Man City's game.
It's funny you've mentioned David Silva, because I've been asked to ask you about a player who plays for Real Sociedad, who I'm quite ashamed to say I've not heard of. His name's Mikel Merino.
Oh, he's been brilliant.
And someone's Joe from a Crystal Palace fan has asked me to. Could you please tell me about him? And I'm interested as well, because I don't know the player.
Mikel Merino has probably been their best midfield player this season. He's been sensational. There's been periods of like Yarramendi, who is the captain, and he's been out for a long time with injury. David Silva's been dipping in and out because he's been injured. So it's been sort of Mikel Merino, let's say, holding down the fort in the midfield without them, and playing alongside the likes of Oyarzabal or even Januzaj, who's, by the way, had a really decent season for him.
I like him.
No, he's got a lot of quality. He's got a lot of talent, Januzaj, for sure. I think it just took him a while to find the right place for him and the right system for him to fit into. But Mikel Merino's been absolutely sensational. I mean, he's been just running the show for them, bossing it for them, just controlling the pace of the game, controlling the tempo, delivering really good passes into the final third as well, helping them going forward and creating chances against opponents, breaking up the lines or all that kind of stuff, really getting past the defenders and setting up really good opportunities for the likes of Alexander Isak. Or I'm trying to think, sometimes they put a second striker up there. But not often, but sometimes they do. But no, he's been probably, if not the most outstanding player of the season for them, probably at the very least one of them.
Wow.
They were both formerly at Dortmund, Mikel Merino and Alexander Isak. Yeah,
Alexander Isak is still a Dortmund player. He's just on loan.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because it's sort of like the domino effect of, I think he would only go back if Haaland left.
Yeah.
But now it seems like Haaland is staying, which is better for us because that means that Alexander Isak is going to stay. So that's what we want. So I didn't know that about Mikel Merino, though. I didn't know he was
he didn't really make it. He didn't get much playing time. I think he was quite young. And then he was like loaned out to Newcastle. Then I think Newcastle bought him, and that's how he ended up in La Liga. Yeah.
Right. Okay. He's definitely found the right place for him.
Nice.
Right, I've got a question before I've got to shoot off to break my fast soon. But the last question I've got for you is a good one, to be honest. It's to do with the league table right now. We all know in the Liga it's a 3-horse race pretty much. And who you got winning it? Who have you got winning it?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
very tough.
It's so tough, and it keeps changing all the time. I think as of right now, I told the guys at the very beginning, I think you missed it, that I have this feeling that the football gods want Atletico Madrid to win this season, just because it just seems like everything somehow just works in their favor. Just when you think that they're going, I mean, they shot themselves in the foot, obviously, by dropping so many points. But by the same token, Diego Simeone loves to be in this underdog position. I think they're incredibly uncomfortable when they're in the lead and with so many points. So he'd actually rather be in the position that they're in, because it's much more, comfortable, known, familiar territory for them. But having said that, it's like, the last couple of weeks have just been bonkers, because there's been these moments where they could have and probably should have lost pole position. Barcelona, they had a game in hand against Granada. Granada had never won there in 25 visits to the Camp Nou. They'd never even taken a point, not even once. They lost every single game, and they'd only scored 3 times out of the last 16 visits prior. So everything was stacked up against them. And then they won. So that was a missed opportunity for Barcelona. Then in another game, a week later, Atletico Madrid were up against Elche, who were currently in the relegation battle. And it was the 91st minute. It was one of the last minutes of the game. Elche had a penalty and it hit the post. So they ended up winning the 3 points at Atletico Madrid to stay in top. then you've got the madness of this past weekend where
Madrid coming back.
Exactly. You have to feel so gutted for Sevilla, though. As a neutral, you'd have to feel so gutted for them, and I do feel gutted for them. I mean, they hadn't won away to Madrid in 16 games in all competitions, and Julian Lopetegui, I think, had a little bit of that sort of revenge he wanted to get over his former club, especially the way that things ended, and they were 2 minutes away from taking the 3 points. Just 2 minutes. That was it. It just felt like such a painful way to kind of lose your foothold in the title race. Because even though mathematically they could still do it. I mean, there's 6 points adrift. There's 9 left to play. But I just don't see it happening.
I think
it's been a fantastic effort, though, isn't it?
It's been unbelievable.
I mean, they've got 71 points now. As you said, they've probably just fallen out the title race. I mean, they've got players like Rakitic and Koundé, who people out there will probably know.
Koundé is another young player, by the way, who's been unbelievable.
Yeah.
Probably the best young defender of the season.
He should move soon, surely, to the Prem or something next season.
No!
It's always to the Prem, isn't it? It's always to the Prem.
You know, it's the best league.
The real league.
He's staying in La Liga. He's staying in Spain.
Nathan, you mean he should move to Manchester United?
That's what he means. That's what he means. Greed.
Trying to, pluck away all of our talent. I see what's going on here. By just doing the scouting to see which clubs you need to go to and start, your club to come fish in the Spanish Sea. No, I don't think so, my friend.
It's a good place.
Just one more thing. You said that you'll think Atletico Madrid, the gods are shining on. I mean, does it depend on their next game, though? They've probably got the hardest game out of everybody against Real Sociedad.
They do.
And Mikel might have something to say about that, mightn't he? So, Mikel Marino.
He probably does, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah. Could it depend on that?
I think it could depend on that, but I think it could depend on the rest of the next 3 games, if I'm perfectly honest with you, because all 3 of them are capable of dropping points. And I don't think any of them will win all 3.
Yeah.
I just don't see it happening because they're exhausted more than anything. I mean, they've really run out of petrol. It's been such a tough season. Last season rolling into this one, plus, Champions League, plus the Copa, plus no preseason, the injury. I mean, Madrid have had 61 different injuries from all of their outfield players, with the exception of Courtois and Lunin, the backup goalkeeper. Every single player has had an injury or COVID. So, and Atletico Madrid has also been, all of the clubs have been exceptionally hard hit by COVID and injuries. So it's only natural that they're just trying to just get across the line however they possibly can, but they are tired. Where was I going with this? Sorry. What was the question? I forgot.
That was it.
Was it hinging on the next game for
Atletico Madrid? Sorry. Thank you.
With that, anyway, with me, I've got to love you and leave you guys. But nice to see you, and obviously great to have you on here to ask you questions that we've asked yourself.
Thanks for coming on, Nathan.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Speak to you soon, Nathan.
All right.
See you
guys. See you guys. Bye-bye.
See you, Nathan.
Bye, mate.
Semra, before you go, I just wanted to ask, Eden Hazard situation. Do you think there's any way of him coming back from it? Do you think this is over? Because the video, I can't remember the show, but it went viral last week.
I think I know where you're going with this, with the reaction after losing.
Yeah.
Well, football fans can be very fickle, can't they? And a lot can change like that. And actually, because of his fortuitous goal by being in the right place in the right time, and his Toni Kroos's shot having a deflection off of his back, going into the goal, it turned him pretty quickly from a villain into a hero. So, everyone is now all of a sudden singing the praises of Eden Hazard because he rescued a point for them, which keeps them in the title race. Even though it's now out of their hands, a point was better than a loss.
Yeah.
And, it came at the death. There was only 2 minutes left to go in the game. So a lot of people have kind of moved on. And also, I mean, he came out, he apologized, and I think they were really upset initially. I think they calmed down after he came out. He apologized. Zidane came out. He backed him as well. And I think last night really helped. Was it last night? Yes. Sorry. Every day is like blending into what now?
It all merges.
That really helped his cause. Definitely. Even as accidental as it was, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. They all count. They all count.
Yeah.
And how was the Super League taken over there? Because Perez said it was something that was needed. That these clubs needed it to survive after the pandemic. But it's a very selfish statement to make, considering that it's essentially saying that Barcelona and Real Madrid are the only teams that matter, when they're saying that we need this, but that doesn't count for every other team that's in the league.
Oh, I could take another hour to give you an answer to that question.
Got 10 minutes.
Another shot.
Oh, right. Okay. I'll try and give you like the what do you call it? The abridged
summary.
The summary. Okay, so first of all, Spanish culture is really different to English culture. Spanish football culture is very different to English football culture.
Yes.
Fans here are much more of a, we'll voice our discontent online, but we're not going to actually go out and physically protest in the streets and, you know, tear down the fences at the grounds and cause a ruckus and you know, wreak havoc and get the boards upset and all that kind of stuff. They're not going to do that. The other thing is the ownership model is so different. I mean, we have to remember that Barcelona and Real Madrid are owned by the socios, they're owned by the members, which is effectively the fans. So they vote in a president or vote out and so on. So I think people were more like, okay, they understand that there is obviously serious financial issues at both of these clubs, and the same with Atletico. I mean, Atletico Madrid was kind of like, oh, well, we'll just jump on because we don't want to be left behind. And then, you know, when they saw everyone else jumping ship, they jumped ship and kind of acted like nothing even happened. You know, it was very quick, and they sent out a letter saying, okay, you know, it's over, we've pulled out. They never said sorry, they never apologized. The players issued a joint statement saying, you know, we're really glad it didn't happen, and full stop. That was kind of it. I think the Atleti fans were the angriest ones, to be honest with you. In Spain, Barcelona, it was pretty 50-50, and I think Madrid was also maybe like 70-30 in favor.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll try and really quickly go through it because I mean, it's so complex. Barcelona, in a nutshell, I think it was because fans weren't really in favor of it. They didn't really like the idea, but they kind of saw it as like a necessary evil, where they said, okay, we are so strapped for cash. We need money in any which way we can get it because we just need to keep the club alive, afloat. So even though we don't like it, we kind of understand that maybe we just have to accept it as a reality. In any case, Laporta would keep saying, you know, it's not down to me, that the socios, the members have to vote on it. They have to pass it. It has to be approved before we could even make it formally happen. So, you know, he was also kind of playing his own, trying to protect his own image and and kind of riding the fence to see how it all played out. So the real backlash came more from the international fans than they did the ones here. In Madrid, they were, I mean, the media, most of the fans, the club were pretty much in support of this happening because Florentino Perez has been talking about this for years and years and years, and he's been wanting to make something like this happen. So, I mean, it wasn't like a big surprise because it was almost more like, oh, this again, you know, because they've talked about it so many times. But there's so many people who defend Florentino Perez to the death. They absolutely adore him as their president. And they say, okay, well, if he says that this is the way forward, then he's right. Then we'll back him 100%. We'll go with whatever he says. And so I think in some ways they've actually kind of played Madrid to look a little bit like the victims. Like, oh, you know, poor us. We can't compete with these mega super rich billionaire owners and oil rich states and who have these unlimited resources that they can just spend and spend and spend, and with financial fair play as well, kind of loosening up because of the pandemic. It makes it a little bit easier for these clubs to continue to spend more money, whereas a Madrid and a Barcelona, according to Florentino Perez, they can't compete with that. Whereas if they form this, yeah, I mean, never mind how you handled your money, but you know, whatever, that's a whole other story. But I mean, I think perhaps there is truth to it to a point, but his argument was, if we create this self-run competition, then we thereby can establish checks and balances amongst all of the clubs. Whereas he was claiming that that's not necessarily happening with UEFA, and that the gap would continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So it was sort of like, in his eyes, a way of trying to keep those teams in check so they can't spend past a certain amount, if that makes sense, to try and keep it fairly competitive amongst all of those clubs that are involved. So the way he sold it to the Madridistas, I mean, they've really bought into it. So, I mean, not everybody, obviously. I mean, there was definitely some dissent, and there were a lot of fans who were not happy with the idea, but people in the Spanish capital in particular, I mean, yeah, they surprisingly are kind of going along with the idea. So the reaction's been very different at each club. And of course, I mean, La Liga, all of the 17 other teams in the top flight were super pissed off. Not at all happy, for obvious reasons, because they felt that it would really do a lot of damage to the domestic league, just as it would in England or anywhere else. And I think Sevilla in particular felt a little bit left out, because here they are, a club who had won the Europa League 6 times. They are European champions. They won 3 of them in a row. They're in the Guinness Book of World Records because of that. And here they are not even being considered.
Spoken about in the conversation,
So, you know, a lot of those clubs were extremely vocal against this. And La Liga as well, too. Javier Tebas, the president, extremely vocal in his disdain for this idea. I mean, along with UEFA and FIFA and everybody else, too. So, but the craziest part is that Florentino Perez won't give up. So we will hear about this again.
Yeah, it will come back again. It will. It will. And maybe that's where we can definitely get you on, because Semra, it is time's up. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Excellent show.
You're very welcome. It was my pleasure. Can I just add one quick question?
Go for it.
Marie, are you wearing a Cal Berkeley shirt?
No, Colombia.
Colombia. Oh, okay. It was like your name strap was just like covering, and I saw C, and then it looked like an L, and I was like, oh, is that California? That's where I'm from. So.
Really?
It got me excited for a second.
Sorry, no, I'm in New York, so I'm sporting my own place.
Got you. Yeah. Fair enough.
Okay, thanks for coming on, Semra. We'd definitely like to have you on again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Brilliant.
All right,
thanks,
take care.
Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
All right, you too. Bye. All right, people. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Make sure you go and share this video. It's an excellent pod with Semra Hunter. I'll put details in the description, her Twitter handle, Instagram handle, and everything like that. Thank you for Marie to join us. Marie.
Where's she gone?
She does it every time. I love it. Now that's got to be Marie's thing now. Like every time, it's like we say goodbye to the guest, and as soon as we say goodbye to the guest, Marie goes, whoo, disappears. Thanks for Nathan for coming in. Thank you very much, Steve. Sorry we couldn't get through your questions, but what I was thinking as I was going through these questions, just that we were just trying to get through our own as well. We will definitely have Semra back on again, but I'd happily go and ask Semra these questions so we can maybe put them up on our page. Maybe ask Semra some of the questions that we didn't get to ask on the show. and I'm sure she'll be happy to answer them questions for us as well. Yes, as I said, great show, people. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. We have, let me just check. We check. We've obviously got the Sunday show. We have Wednesday's Chelsea versus Arsenal, and Manchester United have got, I think they're playing tomorrow, aren't they? I think they're playing Leicester. Is it Liverpool? Yes, they've got Leicester tomorrow.
I think that's Thursday.
Has it been is tomorrow's game's been rearranged then?
Because you may be right.
Because on here it says Leicester tomorrow, and it says Man United versus Liverpool on Thursday. So maybe Man United.
That's right.
Is that right?
Right. All right. That's exactly what it is.
All right, cool. So
because of the 2 days things, I'm getting
yes. So we'll catch Nathan tomorrow, and probably one of us, it'll probably be me, potentially Lee Allison, in his new role as with Nathan as the Man United guy. So as I said, great show. Thanks for joining us, people. Peace out. Stay safe.